All right.
Voila.
We're back. I'm back. I missed last week.
Yeah.
So it's good to be back.
You can show off your family if you want. I have their pictures
I'm
preloaded.
I'm wearing my girl dad shirt. Oh, yeah. I forgot that you put pictures up. Oh, yeah. I saw the very beginning. I'll go ahead and do that. There's a little picture from the hospital. If I'd been thinking, or if I'd gotten home from work any earlier, I would have put some newer pictures up there.
Beautiful.
And then there's the original 3. That was Thanksgiving. So yeah, we're excited.
Congratulations, man! Congratulations.
Thank you guys.
Oh yeah.
It's good to be back.
I was showing those off last week.
And then right before I came in here, my wife was like, "Enjoy your time away." Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
So if you guys don't see me next week, the primary suspect is my wife.
Always is. It always is.
Family first.
That's right.
Hands down. What's up, you guys? Welcome. We got a couple awesome guests with us tonight. Mike Fiore, Inspire to Inspire, and Andrea Thomas. What's up, Andrea?
Everything's good. Just enjoying our holidays and getting ready for the new year and all the projects that we have ahead.
Yeah, hell yeah. And you guys do have some big plans for 2023, yeah?
We do. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus for the last couple of weeks, just taking some family time in. I haven't done that for 4 years. I haven't just shut everything off. So for the last 2 weeks, I shut everything down, and we're getting ready to launch a youth advocacy program next week, and our next National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day. And so there's a lot of work ahead, and excited to see what our new addition, Mr. Inspire to Inspire, adds to the coming year. He blew it out of the water at the end of this year. So.
Hell yeah.
We had a good finish to the year. Introductions. First, I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to not only come on, but actually be your last guest of 2022. You guys rock. So, to be the last guest, they always say you save the best for last, right? So, I don't mind taking that title with Andrea. I'll jump into it. I'll let Andrea introduce herself too. So Andrea Thomas is Executive Director for Voices Awareness and Facing Fentanyl. I am Director of Outreach for both those organizations, as well as CEO and founder of Inspire to Inspire. Our relationship is more than just business. It's a mother and son relationship. I lost both my parents to AIDS because of heroin use. 2 grandmothers, alcoholism, grandfather, heroin, uncle, heroin. Andrea get into her story and about how she lost her daughter to a half a fentanyl pill. So, we just combined and we brought the recovery community, which I'm honored to represent, with the families affected by fentanyl, which Andrea represents. And we actually we are the population, right? We are now becoming one voice. And what's inspiring about it is, if you're like an addict like me, I've done a lot of things to my family members where some of them don't talk to me no more because of it. So I never really got to see addiction from the family aspect of it. And now working with Andrea and meeting, these families that are losing their children, just being exterminated by fentanyl, I'm starting to get a better understanding. And some of the things that I'm missing in my life are being filled by people that I would have never met. That's my quick little thing. I'll let Andrea jump in and introduce herself.
Thanks, Mike. Hey, just think about it like this, dude. The longer you stick around in recovery, the more you're gonna understand what it's like to be on that other side, because you're gonna keep having fucking people die, old friends, probably people that weren't even as bad as you, people used to try to call you on your stuff, and family members, and it's crazy, man. I think it was happening all along, but I was so enamored in my own little world when I was in my addiction that I wasn't really paying attention. Now I'm like present, right? So it's just like death is everywhere, and then fentanyl just makes it worse. So yeah, thanks for that, Mike. And Andrea, not Andrea. Your turn.
So I started Voices for Awareness about 4 years ago. I lost my daughter Ashley in 2018 to a Percocet made with fentanyl, right? A counterfeit pill. And Ashley took a half of this pill, and it took her life almost instantly. So, I didn't even understand that. How can that even be, right? That a half a pill would take someone out so fast. And I didn't know what fentanyl was. I don't think Ashley knew what fentanyl was. And so we started Voices for Awareness. There was an urgency to tell everyone that we could reach about the lethality of fentanyl and that it was out there. 4 years ago, there wasn't a lot of information. And of course, today, we're being flooded with fentanyl in the United States. It's been a roller coaster. Affected families have been at the forefront of this issue for several years, really the pioneers of getting information out to the public. And last year, we started Facing Fentanyl, which is a coalition of many of our fentanyl awareness organizations and affected families all over the United States, coming together in force to warn the public about the dangers of fentanyl and teach prevention. There's not a lot happening at a federal level. Affected families see the fentanyl crisis as a national security issue and a public health crisis. And it's important to us to urge our government for a whole government response, right, to this problem. And we're not getting it. And so we've begun to do the work in the last years that our federal government should probably be doing. But we cannot wait, right? We've got people, we're losing people, hundreds of people a day. So it's very important important to us to continue on. And there's a lot of good work being done by affected family members with no resources, no funding, just the power of the people, right? Coming forward and warning others.
Absolutely. You mentioned before we went on the air that you unplugged over the holidays for like 2 weeks, or was that right after we got on? I don't even know. But you said that you haven't done that in 4 years, right? And that's around when you lost your daughter. So do you think that, I guess obviously it was probably kind of a way to self-medicate to dive into this mission. But do you find that doing this work has helped you on your healing journey as well?
Totally. I am not a sadness I could drown in, right? And I know the day after my daughter's service that I didn't want to get out of the bed. Last thing, I would have just rather pulled the covers up. But I was lucky that several of my girlfriends had flown in and to be there with me for Ashley's service. And I knew they were all leaving that morning. And I had to get up. I had to get out of the bed. I had to thank them. And they all stood there with a cup of coffee when I got out of bed, and they looked petrified. They looked very sad too when I got up. Like, what's going to happen to her now, right? And we started making phone calls right away. And it really saved me because I had a mission from like that moment on to warn people. And it starts with your kid, right? This is how my family's been affected. But then when you learn about all of the hundreds of thousands more, right? And see the faces, I can tell you, every face that I have on my memorial sites or every face that's been sent to me, I remember them all. And even though I might not know their name or who their parents are, I remember their faces. And that's what you just can't stop. So I did, a lot of work. I've done a lot of work in the last 4 years, but it was important. Mike and I talked about this right about Thanksgiving time, to just kind of slow down a little bit for a couple of weeks. And we've done that, and let some things digest and get ready for this next year. And I'll tell you what, it's hard to do. It's hard to think and quiet down a little bit, but well worth it. I'm excited to get started again for the new year.
Absolutely. And thank you for the work you do. It's so important, both of you, even if it is, and stops at just having the courage to speak up and tell your story, share your experience out loud, can just cause a huge ripple effect in and of itself. But to be able to get a community together, and then even finding other people who are doing the same thing that you're doing and saying, let's all get together and make this a more expansive network, because dude, that's amazing. More organized, more people, more voices, more stories, man.
Meeting Mike was one of the hugest blessings that I've had in my work, because I'm grateful to have the support from the other parents, the other families around us, but working with the recovery community, first off, we see hope, right? Yeah. To walk into a room, like the event that we were at a few months back that you were at, Jason, you walk in there and you see hope. And I remember my girlfriend and I leaving there with tears in our eyes, wishing that our kids could have experienced this at some point, right? My girlfriend lost her son-in-law. And it was great to see hope. We were sad that our kids didn't get to experience that, have that journey. But we're encountering only those that we've lost. And so in our work with fentanyl. And so to meet Mike and have so much hope and see the outcome of people in recovery, and that we're all talking the same talk, right? Walking the same walk. He's saying exactly what the affected families are saying. And so our work's been, there's a lot of light to some of the projects that we've had recently. I'll let Mike tell you a little bit about that. Him and I have done quite a few events and have so much more coming this next year.
Yeah, so I met Andrea through her nephew on TikTok, and when he told me who Andrea was and what she was doing, he was like, yo, you got to meet her, you guys got to work together. And it took a few months before God made it happen. I got to meet Andrea on August 21st of this year, where they got August 21st to be National Fentanyl Awareness and Prevention Day. It was held, I forget, how many states was it held in simultaneously, Andrea?
We had 28 events, 28 states that we planned, our families, other families that I work with planned. And then the day after the National Day, we were so pleased to see all the press from other states that were counties and state offices came in and did their own events. So really in all 50 states, something was done for National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day.
Yeah.
And that's just in the first year, so, one of the projects is, the next one that's coming. And this is why, I'm excited, and because now the recovery community is not going to get a part of this. And if you're in recovery, we're everywhere, right? We're in every state. And what gives us more of a reason to stay clean and sober is purpose, right? We're only worthless until we find our purpose. My purpose was easy to find, once I found it, though. My purpose is just sharing my story and my pain with the world and allowing it to help whoever it needs to help. So there's so many of us out there that feel worthless, that feel like they have no part in this. And now we're going to give them an opportunity to become part of it. So I met her there. I had an opportunity to speak, and it was it was an honor to speak with the other people that were on the panel. Our probably most successful trip, and we've been on a few so far in the last 4 months, is probably Montana. Montana, one beautiful state. And I think within 3 days, I think we spoke to over maybe 3,500 kids, and it was a collaboration. Andrea, the Attorney General, reached out to Andrea for some assistance. And then through that, I was able to channel through recovery community contacts. And, that collaboration got us to speak to over 3,500 kids. And what the most beautiful thing out of it was this youth ambassador program that we're working on that's going to go nationwide. Because a lot of the kids after, we spoke and we gave the presentation wanted to know how they could help. A lot of these kids aren't even on drugs. A lot of these kids are coming from families on drugs, and they were asking me questions. And I just basically let them know, like, it's not you, it's not anything that you're not doing to help your family. We have to want to do this ourselves. So don't take it personally that if they're not accepting your help or they're not listening to you. It's just, the illness known as, addiction. So now we're giving them an opportunity to, build something of their own, a youth ambassador program that's nationwide that they can now do community work. Vegas was a beautiful trip too. We actually stopped at Mission High School. So Mission High School is a recovery high school. All the kids in the school are in recovery. They bus the kids from different places. You might have met Giuseppe at the Mobilized Recovery. You know Giuseppe, right?
Yeah, I got his number in my phone.
Good people.
Dude, and let me ask you something, man. When you're talking to the youth, or even if it's families of loss, right? That's a whole nother animal, isn't it, dude? Like you can feel the pain, and you know that you have to be so careful with your words right now. Like, how do I respond to you? And like, not add insult to injury.
Yeah.
What amazed me, Jason, is the strength that these kids had. I mean, we're talking about teens that have been in recovery for 4 years, 18-year-olds that have been in recovery for 4 years. Yeah. And the honesty that they can bring, I could not even have had the conversations at my age that these kids are having in a room full of people. I mean, so honest, so much strength. And I was amazed I would not have missed that day for anything. It was a privilege to get to do that. And they're interested in helping others. And like Mike and I, we were in Montana and we'd thrown around this idea about teen advocates. And then a young man comes up to Mike and is talking to us about the need for naloxone, where to get it, how to get it, how much does it cost? And, we have it. I can get it to him. And he shares with us, that he's got family members that are suffering now from addiction. And, Mike and I on the fly were like, okay, we're moving forward with this teen advocacy program now. And so
there's a sign for sure, right?
Yeah. I mean, it had to be at that moment. I mean,
conversely though, when I was 36, I couldn't have those conversations either. And, I think it's something that isn't mainstream with how people are raised, or, it's not common culture. It's learned behavior, and it is a skill you can learn. And, recovery teaches it to you. And then it's if you're exercising that muscle, right, and you get better at it, and that's amazing, to see people turn around and learn how to get vulnerable and real and humble is amazing. And then get that purpose, right? That purpose-driven life.
And one thing Mike pointed out in speaking with these kids, he asked them how many of them have lost someone from fentanyl, and they all raised their hands.
Yeah.
And, Mike says, he didn't have that same experience when he was
growing up, I don't remember the first person. We'll use the word overdose right now because they use an excessive use of drugs, right? Until I was 25. The verbiage that I adapted from the families affected is that it's not an overdose. It's a poisoning, right? The The definition of overdose is the excessive use of drugs. Ashley, Andrea's daughter, took a half a pill. That is not an excessive use of drugs. That is a poison. Because if you had a little bit of poisoning in your drink, you're going to die. If you had a little bit of poisoning in your food, you're going to die. So, you know, I think when it's presented as quote unquote an overdose, I think our society takes it as it's a drug addict's problem, because that word was always associated with us. So a lot of the prevention and awareness that people should be picking on, I think it's flying over their head because of the verbiage that's being used. Or, you know what I'm saying? Because if you change it to poisoning, you know what I'm saying? Now you're grabbing people's attention a little more. Even the word laced, right? The word laced, the definition means the minority of. These pills on the street are not laced with fentanyl. They're fentanyl laced with cocaine now. They're fentanyl laced with heroin. It's fentanyl with something else. I grew up selling drugs. I would never cut my drugs with a stronger agent. I cut my coke with B12 so I can make more of it. It's so cheap for them to make. I think it's like $1 a pill. And then I get, you know, conversations with people. Well, why would they want to kill their customers? Well, look at Amazon, right? Amazon takes millions in losses a year, but why don't they go bankrupt? Because of the profit margin that Amazon has. The cartel does not care whether we live or die. The profit in Montana, they're selling for like $100 a pill, man. You know what I'm saying?
They're like pennies a pill. You know, our new numbers are telling us pennies a pill.
It's costing pennies, and they're just switching analogs to find the perfect job. Because if it's not, you know, one try and die, because it's not just fentanyl and pills, so it's not just one pill and die. It's one try and die, because it could be cocaine, it could be heroin, it could be so many things. It's the one try and die now, and you know, like it's so dangerous that I think we need to start speaking on it in a way where everyone's going to listen, because it's not just the addicts that are dying, it's the recreational users. These kids can't experiment, you know, and should it be their right? Like, I mean, you should have the opportunity to experiment with drugs and not worry about dying. Does it make it right that you should? No, but kids are still going to do what kids do. So when we go into these schools, we're not the DARE program. You know, I'm not telling you not to do drugs. I'm not, because if I tell you don't do drugs, you're going to think about doing drugs anyway. It's just the way our mind works. You know, when we go into the school, Andrea, you know, gives the education behind fentanyl and, you know, what to look out for and things like that. And then I come in, I just basically tell you why I went to drugs, you know, the people pleasing, my identity attached to things outside of myself, you know, the want validation from people. And, you know, Jason, you brought up, you know, the speaking to the families affected and then speaking to, you know, the kid. There's one thing that we all have in common, and that's pain. Right? Pain is our universal language. We would like love to be, but unfortunately, that's just not the way the earth works, right? Pain, everyone could identify with pain. So when I do speak to the, you know, different groups of people, I just share my pain. I just share my perspective on how I turn pain into joy and how I turn sadness into happiness and learn from my failures and find success. Because I think at the end of the day, we all share pain. But if we share our pain like Recovering Out Loud, right? When we share our pain with the world, like your podcast is and stuff like that, love comes back. Like people find each other through their pain. So, you know, like that's, you know, that's our approach. You know, we're not telling you. I think these kids nowadays are so bright and so much far more advanced than we were as kids. Even their video games. Look at I can't play these video games. I play Super Mario Brothers. You know what I'm saying? So like even the games are more advanced. So these kids can make the right choices if they're told on the behaviors, the attitudes, the actions, and the thoughts, which led someone like us to drugs, just to give them a heads up. Like, yo, listen, if you're thinking like this, there's a possibility that you might go try to escape with a drug. And fentanyl doesn't give you a second chance a lot of times. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah. And I like how you talked about the verbiage you use, right? And, you know, it's funny because the verbiage you were describing, it's not only sounds more serious, you know, more urgent, but it's also less stigmatizing, because if you say an overdose, it makes it sound like the user, you know, is an idiot, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But when, you know, look at like alcohol, right? When you drink too much, what do they call that? They call that alcohol poisoning. They don't say you OD'd on alcohol. You know what I mean? So when you're thinking about it in those kind of terms, it's kind of funny. It's like, and this all started back when the war against drugs started, dude. They did that shit on purpose to flood, our culture with that type of language. And that's just what people think is how you are supposed to talk about it, because that's how they always heard people talk about it,
Same with laced, right? Because these pills aren't laced. They are purposely made to be deceptive and to addict.
Right. Like you think, like you said, you're trying to buy a Percocet. It's not a Percocet laced with fentanyl. It's a fucking fentanyl pill laced with some Percocet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Crazy.
And that's what our society needs to start hearing. And that's why, like Andrea and I are so adamant about, getting this wherever we can and speak. I think that the schools is where it's at, right? We got to get to them young, and I get it, my parents didn't talk to me about sex. I still had sex. You know what I'm saying? Not talking to your kids about fentanyl isn't going to prevent them from not picking up a drug. At least, if you have the conversation with your child about sex, you use a condom, tell them how to be, safe with the sex, right? You should have that conversation no matter how uncomfortable it is. Not having the conversation with your children or having the conversation about fentanyl does not make the problem go away. It makes the problem more severe because now they're not aware. Like, something's not your problem until it becomes your problem. And then when it becomes your problem, you're going to want to know why nothing was done about the problem. So be part of the solution and start spreading the awareness. Do your research on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, have this conversation with your kids. A lot of these schools don't even want to put Narcan in their schools because they're saying, well, then that means we have an issue. Well, you know what? When that something happens, you're going to hope that you did have naloxone in there to bring the kid back, because those parents are going to be like, well, why didn't you have it in the school to begin with?
Right. Well, because they're thinking about it like those addicts. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's their kid, it's different. And now it's too late. This is a good segue. I was going to ask you, Andrea, if you wanted to maybe take us to school for a minute, man. Teach us about some facts and things about fentanyl.
Sure. So it's made in China, right? These precursors are coming from China, shipped into Mexico, and the cartels are flooding the market with them. And in the United States. And it was a perfect storm, right? Because we were already in a prescription opioid epidemic. And so bringing these fake pills into the US and replacing prescription medications that were sold on the streets with these counterfeits worked for them, making tons of money for the cartels, billions of dollars for the cartels. Like Mike said, some of these pills are selling for pennies, like 83 cents in rural areas. Like I live in Grand Junction, Colorado, $120 in Montana. And so it's kind of all over the board, but there's a demand for them because they are purposely made, again, to be deceptive in other drugs, cocaine, methamphetamine, Adderall, pills, anything you can think of is made with fentanyl now. And so highly addictive. So if you make it, you're so addicted that, people are choosing to continue to use, even knowing that they may die from that next pill or whatever, the next line. Even knowing that they could potentially die from that, they continue to use because the withdrawal is so awful. It feels like it's killing you anyway. So your body tells you need it. You have to keep using it. So terribly addictive. A minute amount can take your life almost instantly. So when we talk about 2 milligrams of fentanyl powder, Mike always breaks this down with the little sweet and low, the sugar packet that can kill several people.
It actually could kill 500 people. A sweet and low packet, the amount that's in a sweet and low packet has enough fentanyl to kill 500 people.
Yep. I've seen a thing where, and I'm not sure the accuracy of it, but it showed like the tip of a sharpened pencil, and it was like half of the lead and like the tiny half, the tip.
And that's regular fentanyl powder. What about carfentanil? That, is even a lesser amount than fentanyl to take a life. And these seizures that we're seeing across the United States and in our border towns, they're nothing. They're the cost of doing business to these cartels. They are making so much money. And really, these are transnational criminals. And they're taking an entire generation. And, we need to do something. We need to address this. Do you think there's a fentanyl problem in China? No, there's not. The DEA is telling us where these precursors come from and who's selling them. And our media isn't really talking a lot about it. And I think it's because people see it as politically incorrect to name a country like China flat out, or a country like Mexico. They don't want to talk about it. That's ridiculous. That's where this is coming from. And they are transnational criminals. They are cartels selling to our kids, selling to Americans, and it needs to be addressed. It is taking out hundreds of thousands of people. And if you pay any attention to the data, 2020, April of 2020 to April of 2021, almost 108,000 people, right? 107,000 people. We don't even have the new numbers for the last year. What are those numbers going to look like? And people need to remember these aren't just numbers. They're your mothers, your fathers, your sisters, your brothers. They're your kids. They are our kids. Teen deaths have gone up dramatically, 77% of them in that last year, in that 107,000 numbers. When our teen deaths started going up, 77% of them are from fentanyl poisonings. That's ridiculous. That's horrible. Where is our thought about human life? People are just disappearing. How can this even be? And we're not addressing this in our country, a country like the United States.
And Andrea says it all the time. When COVID hit, we knew within 3 days. What mask, gloves, every day. They schooled us in 3 days about COVID, right?
They did.
So why can't they school us as quickly about fentanyl?
No, they can. They can.
They can, but they're not. So that's why, we're taking it within our responsibility, and we're taking it now. It's our responsibility to bring this out there, whether they're going to help us or not. We're going to do it without them. And what I think they fail to realize is that there's more of us than there is them. Yeah. We're the ones that vote you in, right? We're the ones that give you your power. So I'm a drug addict, right? In recovery. For my drugs, I do anything to get those drugs, right? Because I was addicted to them. Right? They're addicted to their power. If we could come together, become one voice, consolidate our vote, they will conform. They will do whatever they have to do, because a lot of them are weasels anyway. They will do whatever they have to do to keep their seat in that government. And then they'll start talking about it. Then they'll start funding us. But I want to go even further with it. I think us addicts need to start becoming congressmen and assemblymen and governors and mayors, because we're the only ones that know, one, how to hold them accountable, two, how to make a real change. And one of the greatest things that I was able to see with the recovery high school in Vegas, that's how we changed treatment. Yeah, I was able to pitch them the idea of getting a recovery, like a council program going. They're young enough to get certified. They're young enough to get the education to become directors of treatment facilities and change the curriculum of treatment facilities, because we know those don't work that much well either. You know what I'm saying? It's get you off the street for 30 days and kick you right back out there, not leaving you with anything, making you go to a sober living. If you guys know sober living like I know sober living, there's not that much sober living going on in sober livings, So, like there's so much work that could be done. But if we were to just come together, and we can come together, because I think the fentanyl is that spark. Like, listen, we had enough. Like, we're tired of burying our parents or burying our kids, or like Andrea said, sisters, brothers, aunts. Like, their people are just disappearing, and it doesn't sit well with me. It just doesn't. Like, I'm not going to stop talking. I don't. You could shut my social medias down. I'll make a new one tomorrow. Like you're not gonna stop us from speaking. And I think the louder we can get with platforms like you guys got, giving us the opportunity to speak on this, and getting the awareness out there and seeing the passion of the people that are actually out there doing the work. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not doing this for money. I didn't learn this from a book. Like, I lived in hell for 20 years, but that hell helped me find a way to make it to heaven. And the only way I'm going to make it to heaven is by continuously doing what God had planned for me. And I really honestly believe this is what it is, because I can't explain this fire that's inside of me that comes out when I start speaking these things. I just can't. Yes. It just comes out. So like this is where it's at. Like, we have to get louder with this 100%.
And using people, that are in recovery and affected families that have been impacted by fentanyl loss, we have lived experience. And so it's so interesting to me when Mike is talking about, we listen to some of this new legislation or these proposed laws, and they're talking about the treatments that should be used. And you've got people that are in recovery saying, BS, we used, that's not going to work. That's what we need to hear. These families impacted by fentanyl, we know fentanyl inside and out. For something I knew nothing about 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, I know everything about the dangers, not everything, I'm sure. There's something I don't know, but I know a hell of a lot about fentanyl now. And so do the other affected families. Use us. We'll tell you what's going on, what's reality. And instead of working with a bunch of people that are making laws that have no knowledge on fentanyl at all, or addiction, or recovery for that matter. So you need to be, Mike made a phone call when we were heading to Montana, and that phone call to other people in recovery led to 6 presentations within a matter of minutes in Montana. There are 1 in 3 people in the United States are addicted to something. That's a hell of a lot of people. There's a lot of people in recovery out there that are in high positions, do a lot of great work, and can be very useful in solving some of these issues.
Absolutely.
And telling the truth, breaking it down to what's really happening.
Right. And I don't know if you guys have been attendees at any of the Mobilize Recovery conferences, but you're talking about, Mike, that addicts need to step up and run for office and stuff, and this is happening, bro. It's already begun, and there's I'm sure it's going to continue to grow with the numbers that are in offices like that, and helping push the legislation that we need, because it's a huge problem, or I should say a lot of huge problems that it's going to take a long time and a lot of work and a lot of voices to change. Right. Super grateful for the work you guys are doing. There's nothing quite like living a life of purpose, is there, Mike? Nothing. Oh boy.
No, definitely not. And with becoming, I guess, like, we could even start our own political party, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how many of us, and I'm blessed to be able to see it worldwide, right? I'm blessed to be able to, have a voice where people just, are attracted to it. And I think the greatest achievement I will ever make is the fact that a complete stranger can reach out to me and just tell me their secrets and their darkness without even knowing me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that I'll never be able to accomplish, no matter what accolade I get in this life. I'll never be able to accomplish anything better than that. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I know how difficult it was just to admit it to myself, right? To have a complete stranger just reach out to me and tell me things. And we don't need to be told answers a lot of times. We just need someone to listen to us sometimes, like empathy. Like, listen, I appreciate you sharing your story, but that's all I could do. And that's all we need. And I think that's the problem with the legislation, right? Legislation wants to fix these problems, right? Why don't you just listen to us and just shut up for a second and just listen? You know what I'm saying? Just listen to us, and maybe you'll be able to figure it out, because we got to work with them too. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not looking to come in and steamroll people and be violent, because that's not how this works. But maybe if you just listen to us and stop thinking that you guys know what's best, because if you look at our country, you guys are running into the fucking ground, man. Like, something has to change. Like, what do you think this is? We're gonna run forever on what we're doing? No, we're going down. And I know a lot of people like to say that the kids aren't being targeted, right? I don't necessarily believe that, because I read a little bit on history, right? So like medieval times, the larger empires will require payment of children from the other empires, so they couldn't build an army, so you couldn't fight against them. We're a superpower that you cannot beat army to army. You just can't do it. So how do you beat us? In a long fight, by knocking out the younger generation, our future politicians and teachers and doctors and lawyers. Slowly, they're wiping out a whole generation of kids that's supposed to be what comes up behind us to keep this country going the way it's going, and they're wiping it out. Like, people are like, well, the kids aren't being taught. I think they are. Because if I was any other country, boy, that would be a great strategic game plan. Just slowly kill us from the. And then there's a quote, and like, society gets better when the elderly plant trees in which a shade they will not sit under. Like, we have to plant those trees so the younger kids could sit underneath that shade. And that's what we're trying to do. But we got to save these kids so they have an opportunity to enjoy that shade.
Amen. I mean, think about gummies, right? Gummies, or all these fruity flavored vapes and all this shit. Tell me the kids aren't being targeted, dude. Even when we were growing up, dude, Joe Camel, cool, like cartoon characters. And
ignorance is bliss, isn't it?
Stupid. And where's the chance for recovery with fentanyl? We look at our rock stars from my time, right? They're still all alive. I don't know how they used every drug out there
because they didn't have fentanyl.
There was no fentanyl.
That's what it is.
And so now that the time, there's very little recovery going on from fentanyl, and the fallout that these families, you're losing a person in your family, and it's affecting people for years and years. And my co-founder, Deanne Hopkins, she always talks about the fallout to the families, and that's very, very important to recognize. We were watching something the other day, and a counselor was talking about her clientele going up. Her business was booming for this counselor, and she was a youth counselor. And when they asked why the increase in the last year in clients, she talked about all of the youth that were losing someone from fentanyl, whether it was a friend or a family member. And that's very sad that you would see such an increase in mental health. The need for counseling because of fentanyl. Like,
so there was a question of somebody asking, I think her name was Bridget, how could you make a difference or help the cause? You want to answer that one, or you want me to jump on?
Tell someone. That's what we always, the simplest thing is to tell someone about fentanyl, whether it's your niece, your nephew, youth. Talk to somebody about it. We do these things all through the year, sharing our social media on the dangers of fentanyl, or naloxone training. Carry naloxone. That's very important. Mike and I work with Cloxado. That's a naloxone product that we use. We put them out in these opioid reversal and education kits that we are donating all across the country. It's an 8 milligram product. I wish I had it in front of me. I don't believe.
I actually do.
And I don't.
I got it right here. So Cloxado, so Narcan is actually the 4 milligram. This is an 8 milligram. A little bit stronger, reduces, I guess the anxiety of, one, having somebody fall out in front of you and having to hit them multiple times. It's just a stronger agent, not made specifically for anything particular drug, just made stronger because that's where we're going with things. To answer the question, how to make a difference or help the cause, my way is find out who your council members are, find out who your assembly members are, do your research on them, see what their fentanyl views are, see if they're doing any work with fentanyl, get to your town hall, grab the other parents, grab kids, grab bums off the street, grab your freaking pizza guy, grab everybody, get to these town hall meetings, get your voice to be heard, get to the PTAs in schools and find out what kind of awareness or, who are they bringing in to speak to their kids about. Start knocking on doors, start ringing phone calls just till they have to do something. Like, we have to force their hand with this. And the more people you get involved, whatever state you're in, Bridget, you can reach out to myself or Andrea, one of us that have people that you can link up with in that state. You want to start your own thing, I'll help you as much as I possibly can. But for me, we have to start knocking on doors. If they don't answer, then excuse the language, we kick the fucking door down until they hear us.
Yep. You got to get louder. You got to get out there. This shit ain't gonna solve itself. It takes action, man. That's so true. Brett, you're so quiet. What's up? What's your thoughts?
Up? I think Bridge is from Minnesota, right?
Yeah, she's from Minnesota.
I thought so. Yeah, she recently started putting her show on the Recovery Revolution page as well. But it looks like we have another question here from Sarah. How are y'all getting the 8 milligram doses? I'm with a nonprofit in Wisconsin, and we are only getting 4 milligram, and I'm taking several doses.
No, it's taking several doses.
Sorry guys, I'm very dyslexic, and
That's okay.
Reach out to me, Sarah, at Andrea at voicesfораwareness.com, and we'll talk about it. We work with Kloxxado. And that's a product it's in a lot of the states. I don't know about Wisconsin, but I can find out for you and see if it's a part of your bulk program. And but just reach out to me, and I'll see what I can do to help you get the Kloxxado. The form, of course, any naloxone is great, right? Better to have any product than none. Yeah. But if you're going to use a dose, you want to use the
Brett, are you guys able to put Andrea's email on what we're watching now?
Give me 1 second, and I'll have that up there for you guys. But and I had both of you guys on my show, Recovery Survey, a while back, and you guys were just in the beginning stages of doing the school outreach and stuff. So I'm curious how that's going, and what kind of success you guys have seen. And obviously you guys are speaking in front of 3,500 kids. Like, obviously things are going well, but I'd love to hear kind of an update on what's happened in those months since I spoke with you guys last.
Yeah. So we launched the kits in Montana, and like Mike said, the Montana Attorney General is very concerned about his state and wants to provide as much safety as he can for the students in his state. And so he's putting 500 of these boxes into his high schools and junior highs, which is fantastic, to get some education into the schools. And of course, the antidote there, if they should have an unfortunate situation with the fentanyl poisoning or opioid poisoning. The boxes have naloxone in them, the Kloxxado product that we were just talking about, and they also come with education. So a conversation starter for schools. This is new. Fentanyl has changed the drug landscape, and we've got to change with it. And we're not really, we don't have all the answers right now. So, but we know we need to warn our kids. And not only do we need to warn them, they need to understand. So we don't want to just tell them, but they need to understand the effects, the deadly effects that fentanyl can have on them. So in this box, there are resources for videos that one that's really making a difference across the United States that we use is Dead on Arrival. And it's great to show the students these videos, and people with lived experience talking in them makes a lot of sense, and some other tools for parents and teachers and teens. And so just that little bit of education can make a huge difference. And that's a part of these kits. We will be donating more. There's an event next weekend that Mike and I are a part of. Anthony Beltran from Set Free is having a fentanyl awareness concert, and he's going to be donating some of these boxes to the schools in Los Angeles.
And if you want to donate a box to the school, if you're choosing, email Andrea. She'll give you the information as far as how you could, get a box donated to the school. Our next project is a pretty large project, and it hits at home for me. We're working with the NYPD now. I'm lucky enough to have a relationship with the Community Affairs Bureau. So we're working with them. Right now, it's still preliminary to get into as many schools as we can, donating boxes. What really I took from the conversation, which made me and Andrea so excited, was the detective said, coming out here once every 3 months and speaking to the kids isn't enough. Like, we need something that these kids are getting to see a class 2-3 times a week. So we're actually working on some kind of curriculum in class to bring to the NYPD so they can now use their influence with the Board of Education as well as the chancellors to see about getting a fentanyl awareness class in these schools, kind of like a health class. And, that's where it's at. Like, these kids need to keep hearing this information. They need to keep getting this information. So, because just having somebody come in and speak is great. And that's, one of the reasons why me and Andrea were really excited about this youth ambassador program, because we're leaving something behind, right? We could go there. I could give a great speech. I can inspire 3,000 kids. A week from then, some of them might forget what they heard. So we want to be able to leave something there for after we leave. Well, someone can then pick up the torch and run with it and then pass it to the next person. So it's very important to leave something behind, me and Andrea. Like, we don't want to just make we want to leave something there for them to build themselves, because that's how we'll be able to really expand throughout the nation.
Right. Because, I know for me, I got a quick forgetter, man. And I need to be constantly reminded and relearning. And then, to your point, what about the kids that missed school? What the ones that were sick? What about the ones, that, yeah, whatever.
And what's tomorrow going to bring? Today, fentanyl. Tomorrow, we know we've got xylazine and trink and everything else. Right. They're now mixing that with fentanyl. It's like an atomic bomb, right? That any
job, where you have to continue education, you have to keep getting the CEUs so that you're updated on all the newest things happening, and it's no different. If anything, you probably need it more with this changing drug landscape the way it is.
Yep. It's just the beginning, and Andrea says it, and it's kind of true, and it's sad. Like, we might come to the point where all we wish were we were dealing with fentanyl. Like, it might get to the point where fentanyl might be, well, damn, it was easier when we had fentanyl around. Like, that's where the drugs are going. Go ahead.
I did some focus groups, and one of the clients at a Suboxone clinic told me that his dealers were basically looking for old drugs. Like, they wanted old drugs back because fentanyl was taking everybody out, all of their friends. Who can imagine that we wish we had old drugs, right? Like old coke, old meth. That doesn't even make sense, right? So, but that's the point that we've gotten to. And so it's really important for these kids to get some basics and some back to in-person prevention. Look how we lost our kids during COVID. We dropped them right into social media everywhere. Even school they had to do online, right? And now the cartels are coming right to your living rooms. Your kids at your dinner table, and the cartel can reach out to them, or a dealer can reach out to them with a drug menu of anything that anybody wants right there in the tip.
That's what really changed the game, because you could live in a nice neighborhood with the big gates and the security, and back in the day, you wouldn't get in there. Doesn't matter now. The kids got it in their pocket. They're walking around with that phone, that Snapchat. And what's not funny, what's sad is that you can't sue the phone company for a call that they connected between me and you, Brett. You know what I'm saying? You can't sue that phone company because of something we spoke about on a call they connected. So you can't hold social media responsible for what's going on because they're just connecting it. You know what I'm saying? Like they're trying to get that law changed, but How long are we going to wait for laws to be changed? How long are we going to wait for, lawmakers to do something about the border? Like, we got to do something now. It's here. It ain't going nowhere. Andrea and I are two people that will not wait. Like, it's go time. It's been go time, and it's time to make things happen.
Yeah, I mean, and you still have to stay engaged, because as quick as you can change shit,
they're going to change it.
These guys change it. They're on top of it, man.
Yeah,
so
it's a moving target.
Yeah, dude. And it'll keep on.
And the cartels are creative. I mean, look what they've done so far with these counterfeit pills and hitting our kids through social media. Some of these seizures you see, they're diversions to get larger amount of drugs into the United States. So, I mean, they know what they're doing. We need to do everything that we can to divert them, to stop them. So prevention is great. That's what we work on, but we really, really need to push for federal help too. But we can't, like Mike said, we can't wait. We just have to go out there and do what we're capable of doing right now. But we need people to really push our federal government to make some changes here.
It's a national security risk. There's somebody dying every 5 minutes. Like, why are we not screaming from the high mountains? You know what I'm saying? Every 5 minutes we've been on this. So an hour, you know what I'm saying? How many people did we lose? It's like Andrea said, they're disappearing. Like our president really needs to step up. And I know he wants to pump a lot of money into harm reduction. That's not the answer neither, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, harm reduction, has its perks, but it doesn't help all of us. It's not. Well, that's a conversation for another time. But like, harm reduction isn't the answer for this either. You know what I'm saying? We have to get to these kids. We have to get to the streets. We need funding so then we could provide people that are like Andrea and I and other great nonprofits and organizations that are doing some heavy work to be able to get into the communities and speak to people, and people like us that live the life experience, so we could speak from here and not from here, because people hear these words a lot better than they hear words coming from here. So, that's it's a fight, but you know what? We're going to fight back, though.
A friend of ours talks about this all the time, and he says, it's like losing a 747, a plane full of people every day, 300 and something people a day. Wow. Now if a plane went down right now, it would be on the news today and every day for the next week, right? You would hear about this plane that went down. Well, we're losing at least that many people, and I'm sure that is an underestimate of, that's short on the true number of people that we're actually losing a day now. From illicit fentanyl. Something needs to be done. You wonder about it being a genocide of types, right? I mean, that's a big word, but it's a strong word, but it is. We've lost hundreds of thousands of people now, and this is not okay. These are people's families. We need to address it immediately.
If we had a plane crash every day, you think that there'd be some kind of investigation and go, why are we having a plane crash every single day? What's going on with the aviation industry? What's going on with the planes? Why is this happening?
Yeah. Yep. It's crazy, It is. But Mike made the point earlier too. It's like, once enough people are going off, then they'll have to act. They won't be able to keep shirking it anymore,
Or when it becomes their kid. Let one of these politicians lose their kid, and then it's going to be all hell high heaven. Well, your kid is no more important than the kids that we already lost. But you know what I'm saying? Like, every life matters. One life matters. Forget about all the other hashtags. One life matters, because that one life can experience and encounter so many other lives within its lifetime that it can change the course of history. So one life does matter. Let's start showing that you guys have an appreciation for life, because right now what you're showing us is that there is no appreciation for life. What you're showing us is that you don't care about our lives. What you're showing us is that you're going to make us take the power back and make us come and unify and show you what the United States of America really looks like when the citizens come together and we unite and we show you that it's time for you to listen to us.
We are becoming disposable. And people dying from fentanyl are becoming the majority and not the minority anymore. Families that have lost someone from fentanyl.
It's so true, you guys. You know, I mean, even here in Minnesota, we have a massive recovery community here, one of the largest in the country. And, you know, but a result of that is that we're seeing it all around us all the time. You know, if I go through 1 week without seeing at least 3 posts from somebody that says another one gone too soon or this one hits different, you know, it's like everywhere all the time. Yeah. Sadly, you almost become desensitized to all the death.
Yeah.
It's normalized.
It sucks.
Yes, it does. Know? But
people should be getting angry. People should be getting angry about it. People should be doing what you guys are doing, and fight it, you know? Even if it seems hopeless, dude, you know, it's like, it's better to be engaged in that battle, right?
Yep. That's why the recovery community is so important, because we felt hopeless. Hopeless was my life, and now it's not. So who better than the recovery community to show people where you could be one day and where you could be the next? All you got to do is get up and fight for it, right? So, you know, like that's the importance of us, the recovery community, the addicts. And, you know, even, you know how much information I get from people that follow me or friends that are still using, that I get firsthand information. Like, we could go places law enforcement can't. We can find information law enforcement can't, because there's a lot of us still living the life. We have to give them that opportunity to have purpose. By, even though you're still using and you're still getting high, you still have purpose. We still need you. Come in, they can give us information. That could be what saves somebody's life, and it makes them stop using, because now they're a part of something. Because I use drugs to be a part of something, right? So, you know, like, everyone has a position. Everyone could help with this. I don't care what you did or what you're doing or what you're thinking of doing. Like, we need you. Just get on board. You need to reach out to one of us that you see right now, but we need you. We'll find a way to use everybody in this, because we all have a voice at the end of the day.
Right. You just remind me of a great example of my friend Roz over in Philly. She's like putting Narcan kits and gun locks in the hands of the fucking dealers, dude. They're handing out that shit with the dope, you know?
Yeah. And Philly's wicked. Philly's wicked.
It's awesome. I mean, it's sad to think that some people would frown on that. Like, you know, if you're trying to do good in the world, then why are you associating with these people? Well, because they're in the trenches. Everybody knows them that's in the using community. That's why. If I give them 5 boxes of these Narcan kits, they're going to get it out in the streets of the hands of the people that are actually shooting the shit up in their vein. You know? Or taking that pill. One pill can kill.
Yep.
Man.
You
want to finish with anything, Andrea? Because I'm about to lose my voice.
We're going into a new year, and I encourage people, just like Mike said, reach out to anybody that you can, legislators, your senators, your mayors, anybody in your community, because there's so much change that you can make just in your small communities, and that's really what we're going. This is our slogan for this year is "Be the Change," and that comes from Michael himself. He was giving a speech somewhere. We did an event, and he was talking about being the change, and we've picked that up, and we're taking that into this next year. So please be the change with us, and let's finally do something in this year that's going to make a positive impact, and save lives. Reach out to anybody that you can.
Amen.
Yeah.
I love you guys. So
the be the change, I'll end with that. So where that came from was I no longer liked what was going on around me. I no longer liked how I felt or how I seen things. So I promised God that I would become the change that I want to see in this world. And when I became the change I wanted to see in this world, some things happened in my life. What happened was the world around me changed. So therefore, I was able to actually change the world by just becoming the change I want to see in this world. So that's where it comes from, be the change. And we all have that opportunity. Just don't wait for things to happen. Make things happen for somebody. Do something for somebody. Hold the door open for somebody. Say hello to somebody. Say good morning to somebody. Tell someone they look good. Make somebody feel worthy feel good about themselves, that person will spread it on. And just like fentanyl is a plague, we could plague in a better way love across this country and knowledge just by doing one person at a time, because one life matters.
Amen, brother.
Mic drop.
Yep. Love is contagious, right? Smiles are contagious.
Yes, they are, man. More muscles in your face to frown than to smile. So be lazy and smile.
Hell yeah. That's good shit, man.
I love it.
You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for being here. And it's been awesome getting to know you guys on a personal level a little bit as well.
Yeah. It was definitely a pleasure, and I'm glad we got to be your last guest of 2022 with such an important and much needed topic to speak on. I really appreciate you guys for your platform and giving us the opportunity.
Yeah, and I'd like to formally invite you to be on the Way Out podcast, please.
Okay.
Like sometime in the near future. I'm just letting you know right now, my schedule is pretty clear because we had such a huge backlog of fucking recordings that I kind of had to slow it way down. And give them.
Do we follow each other anywhere? But do we follow each other anywhere? You and I
don't know if you follow me at all, but I'm following you all over the place. I see you every fucking where.
So message me on one of the platforms that you follow me, and Andrea and I would love to be on your podcast, man.
Awesome, brother. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Merry Happy New Year. May 2023 bring much success and love in your family. Brett, congratulations on the new family member, man.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Awesome, Jason. Well, let's wrap this up, man.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
That was amazing.
It was. So glad that they came on tonight, and what a way to end the year, man. What a great episode. I mean, tough topic, but I'm glad that we have that on there. And then, if you're watching this now, I would say you can share this video with your friends, your family, whoever, help spread awareness that way. And then, here in about an hour or so, the audio version of this broadcast will be available. So you can find that on your podcast players. Look for this fancy little Recovery Revolution Live logo. If you guys are watching on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notifications so you know when we go live, which is I'm gonna change what I normally say. I usually say every Thursday, but we've had a few Thursdays here and there recently where things haven't quite gone the way we had planned. So almost every Thursday night we're live on Facebook and YouTube talking about recovery. Jason, you have a podcast, don't you?
Absolutely do. It's called the Way Out Podcast. We are 329 episodes, I think now. I'm not even sure. But it's a lot, and it's a lot of personal, powerful recovery stories and some topic episodes where we unwrap recovery power topics. Check it out, and then also check out exclusively on Spotify the Way Out playlist. It's got that same logo, and it's a curated list of everybody that's on our show and the picks of songs that symbolize recovery to them. It's an awesome playlist, so check it out. Nice.
And then I also do a solo show, and I'm trying to remember what Charles called it. They call it
Morsels.
Recovery Morsels. I do some shorter episodes, usually like 30 to 40 minutes. Same concept though, talking recovery stories, all different kind of stuff. Like this past week, I had a lady on that's in long-term recovery from compulsive gambling addiction. Just great having these conversations with people. If that's something that you guys are interested in, be sure to check that out wherever you get podcasts. Same goes for Jason's show, The Way Out, the Recovery Revolution Live. I mean, they're all on all your major platforms, so be sure to check that out. And we are so grateful that you guys joined us tonight, and we will be back next week with another amazing guest, or guests plural. I think it's singular though next week. But thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and we will see y'all again. Remember, progress, not perfection.
God bless y'all.